welcome to Tales of Honor Podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of the Congressional Medal of Honor. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tales of Honor Podcast. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrose, and today's episode is episode 124. Being brought to you by the good people over at Combat Flip-Flops. Hey, before I get into the good work that they do over there, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for listening and tuning in every week, or twice a week for those of you who listen twice a week. I just wanted to say that in writing these stories to getting them prepped ahead of time, I really wish that I had more information. I know I've said this before, but man, sometimes I really feel bad that some of these episodes are like 2 minutes long. I do, and that's why you'll hear that some of these sponsor reads are a little shorter than normal. But I don't want the sponsor reads to end up being much longer than the story itself. Call me silly, but that's kind of, you guys don't tune in to hear the sponsors. You tune in to hear the story, the Tales of Honor. So that's all. Some of them will be longer, some are shorter. Definitely the newer the conflict, the more recent the conflict, the more information there will be. So, but moving right along, today's episode, like I mentioned, is being brought to you by Combat Flip-Flops. They're a veteran-owned apparel company with a mission to create peaceful, forward-thinking opportunities for self-determined entrepreneurs affected by conflict. This means helping educate Afghan women and girls. It means helping remove unexploded landmines and other ordnance in Laos. And it means supporting members and the families of the Special Operations community. Combat Flip-Flops, flipping the view on how wars are won. Business, not bullets. And now, a tale of honor. Frederick was born on the 24th of March, 1842, in Boston, Massachusetts, and was orphaned at the age of 8. His parents disappeared from public record, meaning that they were more than likely deceased, but he was then living in a workhouse called the House of Industry in South Boston. By 14, Frederick was sent on the orphan train, which sent orphan children from the cities to more rural areas and put to work. He was selected by a local farmer in Raynham, where he then stayed until he enlisted in the Union Army in 1861. Frederick was 19 years old 4 months after the Civil War started, and he joined the 18th Regiment Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry. He engaged in his first battle 1 year after enlisting at the Second Battle of Bull Run, and the 18th Massachusetts suffered its heaviest casualties of the war there. Frederick went on to fight in the Battle of Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and Gettysburg. It was his actions on the 21st of August, 1864, during the Battle of Globe Tavern, that would earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "Capture of battle flag of the 27th South Carolina CSA and the color bearer." On the 2nd of September, 1864, the 18th Massachusetts was disbanded, and those who chose to re-enlist, or still had time left in their contract, were merged into the 32nd Regiment Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, which included Frederick. 1 month after his actions, on the 13th of September, Frederick and several others were awarded the Medal of Honor by General Meade, with the captured enemy flags on display. The 32nd Massachusetts was still engaged at the Siege of Petersburg in December, when Frederick was wounded in the left foot. By January 31st, 1865, he had been in the hospitals in City Point, Virginia, and Baltimore, Maryland, and rejoined his regiment. He also received a 45-day furlough as bonus for re-enlisting, and he returned from this just in time to watch the surrender of the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox Courthouse. After the war ended, soldiers of the 32nd Massachusetts were mustered out of service, and Frederick settled down in the town of Somerset. And he also got married to Sarah Francis in 1866. They had 3 children, and he worked at the Worcester Railroad Freight Yard in Providence, Rhode Island. Frederick C. Anderson died suddenly at the age of 40 from a stroke and is buried in the Dighton Community Church Cemetery in Dighton, Massachusetts. And that was a Tale of Honor. Thank you so much for listening to Tales of Honor Podcast. And if you like this podcast, which I'm sure you do, please be sure to leave a nice review, a good rating, and tell a friend. Tell your family members, and hey, if you recently got into a car accident, make sure you tell your tow truck driver. that you listen to Tales of Honor podcast. You can see more information on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and at talesofhonorpodcast.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Christoph Ambrose. Thanks for listening.